Alrighty all, welcome back to the channel. We're back on the internet together again today. We're talking about the economy. We're talking about the budget. We're talking about interest rates. Things aren't as rosy as what they were seeming. It looked like we'd been through the gauntlet. We're coming out the other side. It's appearing it may not be so.
These punters are trackside for a flutter, but a cautious Reserve Bank has rained on their parade.
Very disappointing, especially everyone's got a mortgage.
We were always looking for a cut though.
Everyone's got a mortgage. I just spent $400 on grog.
They're already too high as it is.
We deserve another cut, and I think we've waited a long time to see interest rates come down.
But the RBA governor says fighting inflation is the main game.
Inflation in the September quarter was higher than we were expecting in our previous forecasts. We are alert to the risk that we have misjudged the gap between demand and supply in the economy in either direction.
The Reserve Bank has kept...
Why don't they go and tell all that to Woolies and Coles? Let's keep it under control.
the cash rate on hold at 3.6%, its lowest level in 2.5 years. It's already cut rates 3 times this year.
The bottom line, though, is we know forecasts are very uncertain, and the further out you go, the more uncertain they are.
That's very true. Economists are just taking a punt. It's no different. There's no different than being at the Caulfield Racecourse for Melbourne Cup. Oh yeah, I reckon the cash rate will be here in 3 months. Oh yeah, I reckon it's going to be here. Look how wrong some of the bank's economists are. At the end of the day, it's not a science. They're reading the tea leaves. Forecasting is just made up numbers. I had an economist once say to me, economics is a game of who can be least wrong.
Australia is seeing something that's also true around much of the world. That last mile in the fight against inflation is proving pretty tough. The latest news on inflation here in Australia, therefore, pretty challenging. And the Reserve Bank, off the back of that, pretty grumpy.
Not improving their mood, cost of living pressures are being driven by surging electricity prices.
Yeah, net zero. There we go, guys. Oh, you got to get cheaper bills. Chris Bowen and you got Albo. Australians need cheaper energy, and that's what we're doing with the renewables. Well, that has not panned out very well. It has not aged very well, has it? Put in the comments, what have your bills increases been? If you can even decipher the bill itself, it's very difficult to read. What's the percentage increase? Did you get letters? Did they tell you exactly what your charges are going to be? Or they just push them through, hoping you wouldn't notice? I've heard of up to 30%.
At $1 million.
And housing, with property prices rising at their fastest pace in more than 2 years.
We acknowledge that even with this progress we've made, Australians are still under pressure. Those 3 interest rate cuts are providing a bit of relief, but we know that many Australians would have preferred to see more relief delivered today.
Your previous forecasts gave borrowers a lot of hope that interest rates would be cut quite significantly in the next 12 months. Now, those hopes appear to have been greatly diminished or even dashed. What would you say to them?
The board has always been cautious, so I'm not sure I'd describe the way that the board has spoken in its statements, or I've spoken, has given people hope that somehow there's lots and lots of interest rate cuts to come.
Markets are pricing in a 70...
I hope so, but I don't think it's going to happen. I was quite bullish on rate cuts. I'm like, yeah, this is my opinion. Obviously, G-Man is not the head of the Reserve Bank or a leading economist of National Australia Bank. I'm just a punter. May as well be that anyway. They're all wrong anyway. But my view was we're going to get another couple before Christmas, and then potentially another couple second half of the financial year. So after Christmas. I don't know. My gut feeling is saying it could either go up or it's going to remain on hold. You're going to remain on hold. That's the best case scenario, in my opinion. I could see it going up if things aren't shaping up how the Reserve Bank's going to like. Economy isn't going that great at the moment either. I talked about this in some of my more recent videos, people being made redundant across the board. I've heard it on many different professions, companies of different sizes, government, non-government, you name it. A lot of shedding is happening, so that doesn't show me great confidence. I don't know where they get these employment numbers, they're the really great low unemployment, because that's not in my world. Put in the comments, are you unemployed? Have you been made redundant? Do you know people who've been made redundant? Did you find getting your next job or being in a job market to be very daunting and very difficult?
20% chance of another cut by May next year.
I think there is one more rate cut out there, though it may not be until the middle of 2026.
The next move is much more likely to be down than up. When really depends on the data coming forward.
While there's been no help on the interest rate front, the economy is looking a little bit sluggish. Unemployment's on the rise, household spending is virtually flatlining, while property prices are becoming even more unaffordable, while economists say living standards are under pressure.
The squeeze is really on for families at the moment. Australian productivity growth among the poorest in the world, and if the pie isn't getting much bigger, then there's not much room for us to share.
For borrowers, CanStar's Sally Tyndall says there's been a surge in refinancing, with roughly 1,000 borrowers switching lenders each day.
Right now, the average owner-occupier is on a variable rate of around 5.5%, but a competitive rate is under 5.25%. There are 42 different lenders offering at least one variable rate under this mark. First home buyers can go
get in there, first home buyers, load up with debt. All right. Jimmy Chalmers, government taxes, spending, debt. The debt is ballooning day in, day out, not looking great.
Problems in politics today, and that is the relentless growth in government. More government spending, more government departments, more government control, more government interference, more government everywhere we look. More government, more taxes, more debt. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the Albanese Labor government increased its spending on public service jobs by 8.6% in the last financial year. It spent an extra $3.5 billion, that's $3,500 million on public servants, adding an extra 21,000 people to the pay.
Have a think about that. I thought they were talking about shedding, culling it. Cutting a lot of dead wood in government. A lot of dead wood.
Payroll. So it now spends nearly $41 billion a year employing 386,000 public servants. That's an increase of 5.7% when the Australian population has grown by just 1.6%. Across the country, across state and local governments too, spending on government jobs has risen by 7.6%, with a total cost of $250 billion. That's $250 billion. Governments are employing more.
Yeah, what about Parliament? What do we talk about politicians? What's the growth like there? Sitting in the country bankrupt. Think about any other job out there. Say you're a director of a company, you're a sole trader. You make bad decisions, you are personally liable for it. There's going to be a consequence. Politics, you can say whatever you want, do the opposite, get the opposite outcome. Everyone forgets about it. All good, you get a pay rise for it. You get elected again.
People, and they're paying them more. And we wonder why inflation is up. The Treasurer, however, is in denial, pretending his actions have nothing to do with inflation and therefore interest rates.
If he is saying that the budget is the primary determinant of movements in interest rates in our economy, then we've had 3 interest rate cuts this year, including 2 interest rate cuts since the budget I handed down from this dispatch box in March.
Yeah, and now interest rate cuts have stopped because the Reserve Bank got it wrong. Inflation wasn't beaten because the government spending continues and the government's policies continue to push up power prices. And we wonder why deficits and debt are up, and we wonder why the Green Left vote is up, with an increasing share of the country reliant on government for their wages.
Spot on. And immigrants, they're importing their constituency. I don't know. I've spoken to many people now. Either they're not being truthful, but I'm just dealing with a certain kind of political leaning, potentially. Anyone I've spoken to has said they can't stand Labor, didn't vote Labor will never vote Labor. If they had voted Labor in the past, they're well and truly off them now. So what is it? Is it the 700,000 migrants or 600,000 migrants, whatever that number is? I know it varies, it goes up and down. Is that who's voting for it?
This is a global trend, a global problem, and we need to address it in our country. Since the bailouts from the global financial crisis, and then especially from the overreaction to the COVID pandemic, government has expanded massively, so that all the lessons we learned about big government, about socialism, and about the benefits of free enterprise and small government, well, they seem to have been forgotten. We've just seen this play out in New York City with Zoran Mamdani promising free buses, free childcare, free everything.
An agenda that will freeze the rents for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants.
His guy's going to blow New York City up.
Buses fast and
economically, I mean.
Free. And deliver universal childcare across our city.
Yeah, free.
And as I'll show you in this next
clip. It's not free. The money's got to come from somewhere. You're still paying for it. Yeah, it's free. The government's giving us all this stuff.
But this logic of Mamdani's, well, this anti-logic, it seeks to unlearn the lessons of American politicians from either side of the divide, from successful Republicans and Democrats.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
We know big government does not have all the answers. We know there's not a program for every problem.
We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
They talk a big game, and that's what I'm talking about earlier. They'll make all these promises, all these outlandish promises in their campaigns, deliver on none of them, and that's fine. They've still got their jobs, they're still getting paid. As I said, what other job can make up that much bullshit, overpromise and underdeliver as much as what politicians do, and still be seen as credible?
Yeah, government as a solution to everything. This will all go pear-shaped. Watch it over the next couple of years and weep. But don't think we're immune. Watch our own politicians, state and federal, constantly pretending that when they spray around money, they're actually giving us free stuff.
We committed to cut student debt by 20% and we delivered it. We committed to making medicines cheaper and we've delivered that. We expanded paid parental leave and super paid on PPL and we've delivered that as well. We committed to $10,000 bonuses for construction apprentices and paid prac for teachers, nurses, social workers and midwives, and we have delivered that. We committed to the largest investment boost ever in Medicare, tripling the bulk billing incentive, and on Saturday we delivered that.
And of course the Albanese government's delivering on a plan for cheaper, more reliable energy for Australians, including 113,267 home batteries that have been installed since the 1st of July.
Someone...
What do we do? Joint's cooked. Well, we're paying for all these handouts. They're not free. Someone's footing the bill. You and I, the punter. All right, we're going to quickly take a look at an ABC program. It's a short one. How can Australia realistically fix its housing affordability crisis?
The story of the housing affordability crisis is repeated across the country and also inside families. Let's compare two parents buying a house back in 2001 with their son and his partner trying to buy today. Each pair have typical jobs and earn typical...
With the son and his partner, you mean your wife or boy or husband? Well, they say partner all the time.
...incomes for their era. Each pair has been saving steadily for 6 years. And in today's dollars, the kids are way ahead. And yet, the parents have enough to get a typical 3-bedroom home in the suburbs, but their kids are still 4 years away from getting there. The social contract where a middle-class job yields a middle-class home has been left at the bottom of a house price mountain.
Yeah, well, Labor voters, probably like this dude from the ABC, or pro-immigration, you're causing it, dude. No. Anyone who goes and votes against mass immigration, which is looking out for fellow Australians, by the way, it's not being racist at all. It's about our quality of life. Nah, you're racist. Let's go anti-racism campaign on them. People who are literally trying to defend your quality of life. Why this is happening.
Back in 2001, the average house price was 4 times the yearly income for an average household. Let's call that the bottom of the mountain. In the years since, incomes have doubled, but house prices have quintupled. View it this way, and it's little wonder that housing has become the dominant economic anxiety for a generation that is now hungry for a solution. But what does a solution actually look like?
There isn't one. That's the thing. The house price is going to keep going. It's going to be like New York and San Francisco. People are going to say, nah, G-Man, it's going to crash soon. In Australia, or not even Australians, there is insatiable global demand for land in Australia. So it's going to get bought. Look at people buying houses in, suburbs in Sydney for $3-4 million every weekend. No worries. People throwing down that cash. You got first home buyers dropping $2 million. Don't ask me where the money comes from, but they're getting it and they're spending it. And it leaves a large portion of people left behind. Because most people don't have the assistance either from wealthy parents, inheritances, or they may not be fortunate enough or talented enough to earn mega bucks young. Have those opportunities. That's very rare, 1% type stuff going on here, people buying these houses. Absolutely cooked. Like, I wouldn't want to be having kids now and watching them grow up, and the median house price in Melbourne going to be $5 million in 20 years, whatever they said it was, $6 million. So it's going to keep going. At some point, someone will be right and the housing market will crash. But I've been hearing this since 2001 myself, when I started getting interested in property and looking at house prices and just understanding how it all worked. I have people saying, nah, G-Man, don't go buy a house. Well, I'm not. I'm standing on the sidelines for the crash. Same people still standing on the sidelines 25 years later. 25 years. Look at that chart. I don't see a crash in here. See a couple of little step-ups, a little bit of corrections along the way, and boom.
Well, suppose that we wanted to return things to the way they were. Pretty clearly, you can't bring the house price mountain back down to the wages hill without taking the housing market off a cliff. And that would unleash chaos even if it were possible, which, let's be very clear, it is not. Even these tiny blips that you see in the past were painful for many people who already had homes, with a broader chilling effect on the economy. There's a reason why housing crashes are often associated with recessions. Maybe instead, we could imagine more of a steady decline. Even so, it would still take more than a decade to get back to the old level, and property values would be falling that whole time, something politicians are keen to avoid. Imagine instead that we could just keep house prices constant. It would take even longer to catch up, all the way out to 2048. Or if we let house prices keep growing, say at the rate of inflation, there would be very little catching up at all for the
And now look at that. That's what's going to keep happening. That's my punt. Well, no one knows for sure. I don't have Biff Tannen's almanac. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not from Back to the Future 2. My gut is this is what's happening. There's no chance it's going to flatline. And there's no chance it's going to be a sustained dumping of property. Too much demand.
foreseeable future. Of course, targeting house prices is not something governments try to do or even could do. In reality, they are shaped by interest rates, by migration, and by all sorts of things that we can't foresee. So what's the point of all these lines? Well, hopefully not to make us feel too helpless, but as a reminder that all of our policy debates about housing today are only likely to change the housing story over the long term. A housing problem that took a generation to create could take a generation or more to fix.
Took way more than a generation to create. It's been a couple of generations, at least.
Our housing market makes a painfully sharp adjustment.
Good on you, mate. All right. Quick story here. Cross-border hit squad hunted for Melbourne gangsters. Ending.
Alleged assassins accused of a cross-border hit on a young Melbourne gangster. Detectives suspect a sophisticated underworld crew operating out of New South Wales is responsible for the 21-year-old's murder. Here's Jordan Quinn.
It's been more than 3 months since the shooting murder of 21-year-old Athan Borsinos in a laneway in Wollert. But new information has now led detectives to believe the hit was ordered by a New South Wales crime syndicate, with the offenders driving down to Melbourne in the days leading up. Authorities have released this security footage of a shopping centre car park in Epping, showing two men who police believe it's highly likely they are the shooters. Borsinos was gunned down next to his BMW on July 31 as he was preparing to head to the Heidelberg Magistrates Court, where he had 2 matters listed. The offenders fled in a Nissan Patrol, which was later found burnt out. Police believe the offenders have fled back to New South Wales, but are still yet to identify who they are or which exact crime syndicate they were hired by.
The murder was planned. The murder was targeted.
Of course it was. It's all gang stuff, probably narcotics related or cigarette trade.
And those responsible were likely guns for hire for other people involved.
Detectives have a few theories as to the motive for this shooting murder, one of them being that Borsinos was a suspect in the execution of Sam the Punisher Abdul Rahim. Police are still trying to figure out what Borsinos' connection is to New South Wales, something they are hoping this public appeal will help shed some light on.
There we go. And we got a little bit of crime. What's a G-Man video without some crime tucked in as well at the end? We had some gangsters there. Now we got some poor bastard teenager stabbed on the Gold Coast.
Deadly typhoon makes landfall in Vietnam, and a coup for the Broncos. Storm legend Cameron Smith headed to Brisbane.
Live across Australia, this is Sunrise Early News.
Good morning. A teenage boy is fighting for life this morning after he was viciously stabbed when a fight broke out on the Gold Coast. Emergency crews raced to the scene at Mullandina last night and treated the 17-year-old for multiple injuries. He's now in a critical condition. His attackers fled in a white Mercedes-Benz before police arrived. No arrests have been made. Vietnam is bracing for impact as a powerful and deadly typhoon.
There we go. Lots of crime going on. That's for sure. Now, there was this dude. This is a story that was going on for a while. I'm glad he's gotten stitched up and he's been caught and found guilty for what he's done.
Is facing the prospect of life behind bars after being convicted of killing his estranged wife in a fit of rage. Chilling video was played to the court showing Danny Zayat pretending to find her body inside her Liverpool apartment. Tatiana Dakota Hartrue had called 000, but they didn't reach her in time. Zayat was found guilty of murder and is awaiting sentencing. A Western Sydney man...
Far out, eh? How's the crying? You know, people that can switch it on and off like that, that's got some sociopathic tendencies there.
He's fighting for life after he was mauled by his own dogs. It's understood the 54-year-old was attacked when he stepped in to stop a fight between his 6 dogs whilst walking them in Blacktown. He suffered serious injuries to his head and arm. 3 of those dogs have since been put down.
Wow, 6 dogs. Imagine 6 dogs on you. Probably they're looking like pit bulls or staffies or something like that. Jeez. You're hearing some pretty horrible stories about that sort of thing. You know, people getting their whole faces eaten off and arms and legs and all sorts of things by their dogs if the dogs turn.
A Good Samaritan has been stabbed after trying to take down a knife-wielding man in Melbourne's CBD.
Standard.
A pair of tradies performed a citizen's arrest on the 32-year-old outside the St Francis Church after he was spotted waving the weapon around erratically. One man suffered non-life-threatening injuries in the scuffle and the suspect is in custody.
Oh, toxic masculinity there, eh? Apparently there's a toxic masculinity issue in Australia. There you go. So these guys putting their lives on the line, tackling down a guy with a knife. That's toxic masculinity. Australian men no good. Australian man bad, apparently.
There was panic in Melbourne's airport lounge when a
All right, I'm going to leave it there. We're not going to watch all this. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a great Saturday and see you in tomorrow's video. Cheers.